Now, Matt, I'm curious, if you could seize control of all the TVs in the White House and play a prank video, what would be in that video?
Trump firing Trump. How about that? Hello, everyone, and welcome to Washington to Westminster, a political podcast between two mortal enemies. My name is Matt Johnston. I host a show called The Interesting Times, taking care of the Westminster bit. And we've got one eye on the Eastern Front and one eye on our allies. So keeping up from the US and host of the Phoenix News Network is Andrea Bridges-Smith. Andrea, what news from the New World?
Well, Matt, it has been another extremely chill week over here. Trump came into office promising to create jobs and deport immigrants, but he made the fatal mistake of putting Elon Musk in charge of one of those things. And now we've managed to fire more people than we've deported. And then there is the toe sucking. Well, it's probably too early in the show for that. We'll work up to that. How about you? How are things in jolly old England?
Well, of course, my channel deals with UK politics, as you know, but I kind of feel like it's taken on a more European feel of late. As we, the Europeans, are starting to get our act together, better late than never, right? Which is starting to look like the only two options available to us.
And Matt, this is what people do not understand about Donald Trump. He can unite whole entire continents. Yes, it is in opposition to him, but that is his gift to the world. It's about unity. Look at us. We've been uniting with all sorts of people like Sudan and North Korea.
Oh, yeah, those ancient allies, of course.
Yes.
So, what with the US still trying to work out who the good guys are, the big three of European countries have all been rather busy. Now, on Monday, as you're aware, France's President Macron met with Trump to discuss Ukraine, and then met with the press to discuss Trump, I imagine. Have you seen this, Andrea? You've seen the video, right?
Oh, yes. And watching Macron in action is enough to make one's baguette harder than a crostini, if you know what I mean.
I believe I do, yes. So people talk about Macron correcting Trump, but I think that the trolling came in a little bit earlier when Macron was talking about France respecting international law. And he kept saying, didn't he? He was like, because we respect international law. And he put, we are bet. Yeah, forgive the accent, but there we go.
Yeah.
And he obviously talked about, he was talking about the fact using the proceeds from Russian assets to compensate Ukraine.
Right.
Because he's saying, yes, it's right to talk about a loan and getting the money back from the loan, but you don't take it from the person who was attacked. Is that how Trump thinks, the police and law works? If somebody gets assaulted, then you go up to them and say, okay, we can help you out, but it's going to cost you.
Right, exactly. That's not generally how it's supposed to work if you care about ethics or goodness or not being evil.
Which I think we've already why are we surprised? I mean, we already knew
this is true.
Trump, didn't we? This is very much Trump 101. Yeah, right. So, Trump tried to pull one of his fake news spots by saying that Europe was loaning the money and they were going to get it back. And although neither France or US have a monarchy, America ran away from theirs and France executed theirs. But although no other country has a monarchy, at that point, Macron royally owned Trump.
Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money. To be clear,
I mean, it's nothing like getting your big fat ass handed to you on a plate by someone in their second language, is there?
Yes, that was magnifique. I would love to get more world leaders handing this man his ass. I think, in fact, that might be my new love language.
Macron also mentioned, as we've spoken about in the past, Andrea, that Europe has given 60% of the money to Ukraine's war effort. I mean, quite right. Europe is a rich continent, and this war is happening in Europe, so it's only right that we should give the majority of the money. And when you look at the breakdown, it's the countries like Denmark, Estonia, Finland, and the Baltic states who are given the highest amount of GDP, at near or above 2% of GDP. While the US and us are giving 0.5%. So Europe, the continent, is doing its fair share.
Yes. Now, a quick question. Europe, you're saying, is a continent and not a nation, because in the American textbooks, since the GOP has gotten a hold of them, that they have Europe down as a nation, not a continent. It's the bit right after Jesus riding the dinosaur. Do I have that incorrect?
Yeah, I think so. And if not, why not, right? I understood that's when he got Santa Claus to work for him.
Yes, exactly. It's a whole system.
Although I have
there.
to say, Andrew, we waited 3 years for you guys last time around. So hoping if push comes to war, it won't take you as long this time.
Oh, no, don't worry. You guys are the only ones that Trump seems to want to go to war with these days. We will be there much faster this time. It might be a trade war before we do the war. But the important thing is that either way, it works out okay for Lockheed Martin.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, we've got to look after those people, haven't we? Yes. So, also, Macron has backed Starmer's call for troops on the ground in Ukraine as part of a peacekeeping force after any agreement is complete. And he's making Starmer's making some pretty heartbreaking cuts to push defence spending up to 2.5% of GDP. So speaking of which, it's Starmer up next. He's up next to see Trump. And you do feel with these European leaders that they get together beforehand and are like, okay, so Macron, you're going to bring the history books and explain why Russia aren't fans of democracy. That's putting it mildly, right? Then Starmer, you bring the map and point out to Trump where all the different countries are. And you're kind of hoping that between them, Trump will have some grasp on what's going on by the time he gets his orders from the Kremlin.
Yes, and I'm also wondering which European leader is going to be in charge of distracting him with a shiny set of car keys. Jingle, jingle. I heard the Lithuanian prime minister is great at that.
Yes, Prime Minister Jingle Jangle, I believe, as he's known now. Now, finally, the final leg of the tripod of truth is what I'm choosing to call it. I can't see it sticking. Is Germany, and they had elections, as I'm sure you're aware, on Sunday, and it's looking like a chap. I've got to make sure I get my pronunciation wrong because I got it. My pronunciation right because I got it wrong on Monday's video. The chap's called Friedrich Merz, and he will be the new chancellor, and he's called for more support for Ukraine. And it's looking like these three, military powerhouses is probably a bit of a stretch, but they are very much the backbone of Europe. And it's looking like they're ready to step up to the plate. That's another American saying, of course. By the way, what's the American saying for what Trump's doing?
Clusterfuck comes to mind, or perhaps this week more of a toe fuck. But you know what? We're still not ready for that discussion yet. We're going to get to that. Carry on.
Okay, you kind of piqued my curiosity now, and it's one of those where people go, Google it, and then you Google it, and you're like, why did you, I didn't want to do that. Okay, all right, so, do you want to hear something interesting?
Sure.
A former MEP, that is member of the European Parliament, has been arrested for taking bribes from a Russian to say nice things about Russia. And this chap was a member of Reform Party. You remember the ones that Nigel Farage is the leader of?
Yes, of course. Oh, wow. Okay, someone in office getting bribed to say nice things about Russia. I am shocked. That never, ever happens. Huge surprise. Unprecedented. New territory. Now, Matt, you remember our friend Big Balls, the guy working for Elon Musk over at DOGE, who has been helping fire a bunch of people at the ripe old age of 19?
Yes, if I'm right, Big Ball's tiny penis, right?
That is him. Well, it turns out that Big Ball's teeny peeny is the grandson of a former KGB spy. The Russians sure do have their fingers in a lot of borscht, don't they?
Wow, it all interlinks. Is this guy actually a US citizen then?
He is. He was born here, but his family is one of those immigrant families that we're not interested in kicking out for some reason. Not sure why. Does it have something to do with the skin tone? We're not sure. But speaking of all those firings that Big Balls has been up to, you might be wondering how America is spending all of the money that we now have laying around just in piles, now that we're not spending it on all those pesky federal employees and their pesky families who keep wanting to eat every day. Oh, it's horrible. Well, you will be happy to know that we have taken that money and we have invested it very wisely into a $200 million ad campaign thanking President Trump for closing the border.
a $200 million ad campaign. I mean, the 400-foot statue would have been cheaper, wouldn't it? I mean, what do the ads look like? Have they started calling him the Exalted leader yet?
We're headed in that direction. It's got a lot of gravitas. Here, take a look.
I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. Thank you, President Donald J. Trump, for securing our border, for deporting criminal illegal immigrants, and for putting America first.
So I suppose my first point is, how the bloody hell did that cost $200 million? How much are American flags, by the way? Because they got about 6 behind her, haven't they?
Yeah, we don't like to undershoot on the number of American flags present. So that's half the budget right there, is just the flag budget. And then there's like $500 for the actual filming of the thing, another $500 for the stock footage, and then the rest of it is just we're giving that to Facebook to, I guess, run the ad campaign. So money very well spent. Now, I do actually have to give Donald Trump some credit for this. President Biden was not very good about letting people know when he did good things. He would make like one little announcement and then he would like go back to work. And the only reason anybody would find out about something good that he did was when the insulin that they need to survive got 6 times more expensive after Trump overturned Biden's executive order capping the price of it. Sometimes you do have to toot your own horn, or in the case of Trump, sometimes you have to toot every horn that has ever existed, but you do know when the man has done something.
Now, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but didn't Trump sign an executive order? Is it an executive order when he sort of tries to change a law or something? Okay. So to get hospitals, doctors, various medical institutions to inform patients of costings before they go for the medical or medicine or medical procedure. Is that right?
I had not heard about that. That sounds like something that Joe Biden would have done. So I'm a bit surprised that Trump did. If he did, great. I encourage that. It seems like he's more likely to sign an executive order stating that if you don't pay your medical bills on time, the hospital can serve you up buffet style in your cafeteria. But, this works too. Now, Trump has also spent a bit of money on some signs trolling the Associated Press, who refuse to refer to the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. But of course, as we discussed on our show last week, they are both wrong.
Now, come on, stop it. Stop this, both of you. This is not how we figure out the names of things. No, we do not fight about it. We sell the naming rights to the highest bidder, which is why the Gulf of Mexico will now be known as the Gulf of Doritos.
All right, now, Matt, I hate to do it, but we are going to have to talk about the foot stuff. So I don't know if you've seen this, but Elon Musk's shenanigans over at DOGE, where he's just firing people left and right. He got on the stage with a chainsaw at CPAC last week to talk about how he's cutting everything. Now, all this has ruffled a few feathers, as you might imagine, and that has led to some delightful pranks. So at the Department of Housing and Urban Development, someone somehow got a hold of all the TVs in the building, and they ran this video on a loop of Donald Trump, not sure how to euphemistically say this, maybe we'll say pleasuring the feet of Elon Musk. Here, take a look.
TVs in their office were hacked. Oh, wow. And a deep fake video of Donald Trump kissing and sucking Elon Musk's toes.
I believe that's called a foot job.
Yes, that is the only kind of job that Elon is creating right now. Is they're all foot-based. So.
Well, there you are. I wasn't planning on sleeping the next 3 nights, anyways.
Yes, that one will knock the sleep right out of you. You will be awake for a good long while. No need to ingest caffeine. That video is caffeine itself. Now, Matt, I'm curious if you could seize control of all the TVs in the White House and play a prank video. What would be in that video?
Now, this is rather interesting because we had the same sort of thing actually over in the UK when it came to, you guys call them civil servants as well?
Yes,
So it's basically Elon Musk going in and trying to fire civil servants and stuff. We had the same sort of thing when Boris Johnson was trying to push through the disastrous Brexit. And and one of them sent out this on an actual sort of server, an email which basically said, I can't remember what it said, something like evil and twisted. Can you imagine working for these truth twisters? It's something along those lines. And everybody was like, wow, this has come from a server. You know, what do they say? The assassin is in the building or whatever. You know what I mean? This person is here, they send out this stuff. And of course, they tweeted it out from the actual civil servant's account. Proper, I can't remember what it was, Home Office account or something like that. And everybody retweeted it and just retweeted it and just retweeted it. It's there for the rest of your days, as it were. So
Yeah.
I don't know what I would, probably one of Trump firing Trump. How about that?
That's a good one. That's a good one. The Trump, the apprentice host versus Trump, the president, and telling him himself he's fired. That's actually a really good idea. I like that. I think for me, it would be a picture. It would be a video of Putin spoon feeding Trump from a jar, and then him doing a little wink to camera, and then it pans down to the jar, and the jar just says polonium on the outside of it. So,
nice. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think you could have so much fun. The problem, of course, is that Trump is notoriously thin-skinned, isn't he? So
he is,
he
and
can't like, whatever, I've won now, or something. He can't be that person.
Yes, and Elon Musk as well, also extremely thin-skinned. And I have to say, if you are going to be the leader of any nation, doesn't matter if it's, the US, the UK, whatever, if you're going to be the leader of any nation, a thick skin seems like an inherent job requirement. If you can't handle, YouTube comments, then you should not be running a country. I think that's just a basic thing.
Yeah.
Now, the funny part of this video is that no one could figure out how to get this off of the TVs. They couldn't figure out where it was coming from. So they had to send people around to manually unplug all of the TVs in the office. The thought of people walking around just unplugging the TVs.
Yeah, I mean,
is so funny to me.
That's crazy. What time did this happen? Was it during the day?
Yes, I think this was, I want to say it was Monday morning when everybody came into work, like this was up and running on all of the TVs.
So everybody would have seen it. I mean, they do tours as well, don't they, of the White House?
Well, this was at the Department of Housing and Urban Development, so it wasn't at the White House. But, oh man, if anybody out there has access to the AV setup at the White House, by all means, please get some videos going because we love to see that. That's comedy gold right there. This is, perhaps a job for our friend Big Boss. He's a rapscallion. Let's get him in there and see what he can do.
Well, thankfully it was his toes and not his big balls.
Yes, exactly.
Now, before we go, I wanted to take a moment to sort of talk very quickly about Starmer meeting Trump, which I think is happening. Is it tomorrow? I think it's happening Thursday, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's going to be, I mean, it always plays well for let's be honest, any nation where your leader goes up and basically, he didn't slap down Trump, but it basically sort of corrects him, is able to sort of appear more confident, more brutish, correct him, as it were, Yes. Just to be clear, that isn't Starmer. That isn't what Starmer does. And I think Starmer's still got it in his head that we which to be fair is correct. I think we would struggle to maintain any sort of peace in Ukraine without America.
Yeah, but also that ship has sailed, it seems. So I think Starmer, I'm hoping that he sees the example of Macron, who gets to come back to his country and look like a badass. And it's like, hey, Starmer, you could be that guy. You could be that guy. And I'm not saying be rude or anything like that, but, feel free to come over and say what the facts are. More people want you to do that than don't, I would say. Right.
I'm just going back to this thing of needing America on side. I was watching this program on MNBC.
MSNBC?
MSNBC, that's right. And they invariably do discussions. By the way, that's something that you guys in the States have. We don't have it. Actually, tell a lie. We've got it on GB News, but there's no left-wing version of it. So we need more of that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you and I are that.
This is where people can find that. But
Yes.
this lady was talking about the fact, she's saying, look, for all Trump's talks about money and we spend all this money and stuff in Europe, you see, we've done rather well out of this. Essentially, half of Europe is now democratic countries, where before it was part of the, behind the Iron Curtain and stuff.
Sure.
Some 150 million people now more enjoy democracy to the point that they're prepared to go to war to defend it. And, we're allies, as it were. We've all sort of helped each other out, as it were. So, she'd mentioned about companies, but she said, you can see, and you mentioned it yourself, Andrea, you can see Europe now rearming itself, where for 80 years it never felt the need to do so, which is obviously a fairly dark time.
Yeah. Anytime that we start thinking, maybe we should really jack up our military spending through the roof is usually not a great sign of how things are going. I do think it is smart for Europe to be prepared for whatever is to come, especially since it does happen to run right up against Russia on that one side. So that's a tricky business right there. And now that Russia knows that it can get away with seizing territory and basically doing whatever it wants, I think the Baltic states are probably going to get pretty nervous.
Yes, especially when you consider that this push isn't just Russia, it's China, it's North Korea.
Right, exactly.
Not saying they'll take over the whole mass, but if they do push that much further, it gives them that much more leverage.
Yeah, and the last thing that I think Europe wants is all of that to the east and then a hostile U.S. to the west that's kind of squeezing them transatlantically. I think that would be bad. But I really wish that we did not live in a world where that was starting to sound like a possibility. Europe has been, I think, the way it's been seen in America for so long is like, if you can go on like a really fancy, expensive vacation, then of course you go to Europe because that's like the best place to go. And it's got all the culture and the history. And, that's where so many of us come from. And, white people at least. It's it's always been seen as like, a really wonderful place to go and experience. And it would be a real shame if all of that just fell apart. And I'm hoping that the humans that are not in government, like us, can maybe keep those good relations going until such time we boot out these people and get new ones.
Yeah, you've got the midterms, haven't you? That's the first one. How far away are we from the midterms? Well, midterm, I suppose, so a couple of years.
Yeah, so 2026 is the midterms. There are already a few special elections starting to happen now, and you're seeing some interesting things. So there's a governor's election in Virginia that is in the works, and last, I think, November, when they did like the primary for this, the two candidates were neck and neck. And now they did some new polling, and the Democratic candidate has pulled way ahead.
Wow.
And that is in large part because of a lot of the people that have been fired from the federal government, which I think I read something this morning that's like 300,000 people, which is a staggeringly large number. Though a lot of those people live in Virginia. And so obviously their opinions have very rapidly changed. And there will be some other special elections in the meantime that will be interesting to watch, to see, what's the bellwether, because there is some dissent definitely starting to happen. you're seeing Republicans at town hall meetings getting yelled at by their constituents about like, what the hell is Elon Musk doing over there? Like, he needs to calm down. So, you know, we'll see what happens.
It's a fair point, I suppose, isn't it, really? Again, we had the same sort of, it wasn't actually that brutal, though. We had a chap called Dominic Cummings, who I know we spoke about in the past, you know, who claims to have been the person who put Boris Johnson into number 10. There's a certain amount of truth in that, certainly. He was able to manipulate a lot of people when it came to the Brexit vote. But yeah, it was nothing like we've seen. It's bizarre to watch him sort of fire people and then the following day going, oh, you're unfired now, or sort of I mean, to a certain point, people are going to sit there and go, I can't do this anymore. You know what I mean? I don't know each day if I'm going to get fired, not get fired. You know, I don't need the job this much. You know?
Right. Well, I'm curious, did Dominic Cummings hold up the chainsaw? Is he a chainsaw guy?
No, he didn't. No, he metaphorically, shall we say? But again, he didn't fire loads of people. I think that's a huge difference.
If he really wants to commit to the bit, a chainsaw is definitely in order. So, or some kind of yard implement, perhaps a rake or a shovel or something like that.
I think that's the point as well, is that somebody mentioned, again, find myself watching a lot of American news to find out, you know, because obviously you and I do this weekly podcast, but on another one, they spoke about Trump being a transactional president.
Yes, exactly. And so if you want to have an alliance with him, you need to have probably a lithium mine or something like that that's ready to be dug into. And then all of a sudden your nations can be friendly. So it really is about, you know, what can I pillage from everybody else? He's definitely very transactional. I'm curious if you've heard about this handshake thing with him and Macron.
Yeah, with Macron doing that sort of, yeah.
Where he just
They've had it forever, haven't they? Because Trump does this thing, when he first came to power, he did this thing like, I'm going to show I'm really strong by shaking your hand like this.
Yeah.
And Macron spotted that, I think. And so it kind of it became the pair of them going, like I was waiting for them to kind of go, waiting for first one to call uncle or something, you know, and squeezing like that. It seemed a lot more easygoing this time, I felt. There was genuine warmth. With Macron, you could get this sense from him that he'd been watching Trump say all this crap, and it was just like, okay, when I get over there, if he starts that again, I'm going to say something. You know what I mean? And yeah.
Right. Well, my advice to both Macron and Starmer as he heads this way is next time that that handshake is about to happen, you just want to do a quick sneeze into the hand and then out you reach, right? Starmer, this could be a really funny thing that you could do. You have a comedy opportunity, and I want you to sneeze in your hand and reach out and grab it, okay?
I can tell you now that, well, exactly along those lines, because you've still got people, still got people that are in love with everything Trump does in the US, and people over here as well. It's very strange to watch. I was watching all these kind of right-wing nut jobs. There's no other way to describe them. I shouldn't describe them like that. I should describe them as voters we don't share a common interest with. But they were they spent all this time fetishing about the Second World War, and here we are, like having a kind of invading army done by a fascist dictatorship, and they're all sitting there going, "We should go over there and fight. We should go over there and fight," because it's Starmer saying it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, it's very strange. It would be amazing, though, if Starmer just went, put out his hand to shake, Trump put out his hand to shake his hand, and Starmer just licked it like that, and then held it out. Because I tell you what, there were the two camps, that a lot of the right-wing press would lose their shit. Right. But I could see his approval rating crash through because he's not doing great on the approval at the moment, Starmer.
Sure, yeah.
But it would just blow up because it's just like, not so boring now, am I? You know, not so dull now.
Exactly. Yeah. He's got an opportunity here to do something really gross to Donald Trump's hand, and I think he should take it.
Only if it's a bit unsubtle, you know, just like.
Yes. The more unsubtle, the better. All right, that is going to wrap up this week's episode, but I'm sure
what a way to finish this show. Yes, there we go.
I'm sure that we are going to have more to discuss next week. That does seem to be a pattern lately. In the meantime, if you need a cold shot of some East Atlantic comfort, you can find Matt over at his channel, The Interesting Times, handles right down there. And if you need something a little bit closer to the Gulf of Doritos, I will be back on Friday right here. Till then, see you. Subscribe, turn on the notifications, don't miss a thing. Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Bye.